Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Tea with Mike, back again with another live episode. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful evening. I'm really excited to be back doing this again. We've had lots of support for Tea with Mike so far. The page Tea with Mike is growing, and I'm really excited to just keep building the page. Um, the logo for Tea with Mike is nearly ready, so I'll be announcing that shortly. So stay tuned to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to learn what the new logo is going to look like. If we just wait 1 second. Hey everyone. Hey guest. It's gonna be good. I'm excited. Thanks for tuning in. I'm so ready to go. Hey Brandon. I'm so ready to go. Hey Brandon, how's it going?
Hello, it's going very well. Thanks for having me on.
Can you see if you can rotate your
Am
screen?
I crooked?
Yes, upside down.
How's that? Is that good?
You need to go the other way. Like you're like a 180 upside down.
I'm 180 upside down. Oh, okay. Like this?
And rotate once more.
Like this?
There you go, dude. Nice. How's it going?
It is going good. Just give me 1 second here. I gotta prop my phone up with something.
Yeah, no worries, dude.
Let's try this.
No, for sure. Facebook
How's
Live,
that?
good. Facebook
Cool.
Live looks easy, but it really isn't, as I found out when I did the first episodes of the show.
Yeah, this is my first time doing an interview this way, so it's interesting.
Cool. All right, I'll jump into the show straight away, and we'll get going. So, hi guys,
Let's do it.
welcome to Tea with Mike, episode 10. Every episode just keeps getting better and better. The diversity of the guests just keep increasing. Today I'm joined by Brandon Rhiness, who is a
Rhinus.
director, actor, and a novel writer, and a bunch of other cool things. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we'll just jump right into it. The custom question on the show is, what's your favorite type of tea?
Well, honestly, I'm not a big tea drinker. I wish I had a cool answer, but if I had to pick, I would just say classic old green tea.
Nice, man. So
Is that good enough?
my favorite type of tea is English breakfast tea. It's kind of like a black tea. It's a bit like coffee in that sense, right? Nice and black and strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool. So there you go. Nice mug. So let's see. Tell us a bit about yourself. What you do. It's very diverse.
Yeah, I think pretty much everything you said was correct except actor. I am
Oh,
absolutely not an actor. um, yeah, mainly I consider myself a writer number one and kind of director number two, producer number three, I guess, if I had to put them in order. Um, yeah, I do comic books. I kind of started doing movie type stuff and I got out of it for quite a few years and started doing comic books and then got back into the movie stuff with much more success.
cool. Right on. Can you kind of expand on sort of each of the different areas you do and what like current projects you're working on?
Yeah, for honestly, the comic book side of it has definitely slowed down in the last couple of years, mainly just because the movie stuff sucks so much time and money out of the whole operation that it's just really kind of hard to keep up with it. So we're slowly putting stuff out, and I have a lot of comic books that are available, and they're still selling, and getting people interested in it and that. I want to get back into it more once I have more time to devote to it. But yeah, I think it was around 2013 or so. My business partner slash friend Adam Storschuk and I, we were kind of lifelong comic book fans, and we talked for years about kind of creating a comic. I can write, he could draw, and it's like, hey, we should do a comic book. And we talk about ideas and stuff, and nothing ever came of it. We just talked, and until one day I was like, you know what, like we can't just keep talking about what we could do. Let's actually make a comic book. So we came up with Stargirl was the first one we did, and I wrote the script for it, and Adam did a bunch of like concept drawings, and we ended up hiring an artist to do the comic, and it took a whole year to get this one comic done. But finally it was done, and it was kind of like, we got a bunch of printed copies, like 100 of them that came in a box, and it was like, so cool. I actually made a comic book. I created
That's
something
awesome.
out of my own mind, and now I'm holding it in my hands. I quickly realized that it was just not up to par. So we ended up redoing the entire first issue of Stargirl. So there's only 100 issues of that first attempt at it out there somewhere. And after that, we do Misfits and Ghoul Squad. We started adding more titles and doing more comics, and Boy with a Balloon for a Head, and Elvis the Zombie, Alley Cats. Like we had, we for a while there we were cranking stuff out so fast, and it was all going well, and I kind of just I was on a roll, and I just remembered back to when I was younger. I used to write screenplays, and I was like, I should try doing that again now that I have some success in the comics, and I'm just I'm kind of more mature and wiser, and I got better basically. So I started writing scripts, and next thing you know, I had a couple produced, and then next thing you know, people are paying me for the scripts, and then next thing you know, I'm kind of selling them faster than I can. Um, so I kind of just wanted to keep going, and I attempted filmmaking, kind of back in the 2000s, and I made some really, really crappy short films. But now that I had, new resources, I knew more people, and I was just kind of further along in my career, I decided to give it a shot. So I just, kind of got people together, started directing my own things, and basically learning as I go. Um, Kind of the first ones I did, I really didn't have any idea what I was doing. I just kind of jumped into it, figured it out as we went, and so I was kind of, putting short films out and web series as I was learning, and it just kind of all went from there, and it kind of the ball's just been rolling, and the momentum's been going, and now I'm doing bigger projects and working with amazing people, and it's I would have realized 20 years ago that I'd basically be living the dream.
It's also so. What advice would you give to people that interested in writing, but they don't think anyone likes their work?
Honestly, I tell people this all the time. It's like, if I can do it, you can do it. It's like I wasn't born into a rich family. I didn't, my dad's not a Hollywood producer. I basically, when I started, I knew nobody that did this. So everything I did is self-made. Um, so if you're reasonably good and you could learn and get better, like you can do what I do. It didn't take me that long. Like, I mean, I guess in a way, I've been writing scripts for many years, but when I really set my mind to it, it's only been maybe like 4 or 5 years when I really decided to take it seriously. And it happened rather quickly. I mean, there's a lot of people making, short films and web series and other stuff like that, and they're, doing micro budget and low budget things, and they need a script, and it may be yours. And you never know what people are going to like. Um,
That's
like
true.
I remember I had a script called The Mustache, and it was a comedy script, and it was like 5 or 10 pages or something. And I thought it was pretty clever and funny, and I probably pitched it to like 30, 40 different producers. Like no one liked it, no response. So it kind of just sat there on my computer for about 2 years or so, and I kind of just gave up on it, wrote other things. And then there's a director here in Edmonton, Michael Charnay. One day he contacted me, and he's like, "Hey, do you by any chance have just like a 5 or 10 page comedy script?" And I was like,
Oh wow.
"Well," I'm like, "I got this one, but no one likes it." So I was almost, I didn't want to share it because I thought everyone would hate it. So I sent it to him, and he read it, and he's like, "Oh my god, I love it! I want to make it." I was like, "Really? Are you kidding me?" So he went out, shot it, turned out great. I got into a bunch of festivals, won some awards, and all that took is, it just took a whole lot of people not liking it until I found the person that did, and they made something of it. Another good example is I have a script called Firstborn Son, and I pitched it to a whole bunch of producers. Didn't really get any feedback. Some people liked it, some didn't. And then this one guy in LA, I remember, he asked to read it, and I waited a couple weeks or 3 weeks, and then I asked him like, "Hey, did you get a chance to read my script? Like, what did you think?" And he just emailed me back and kind of tore it apart. Like it's like bad dialogue, blah blah. Just totally, being a huge asshole. And I was kind of like, okay, whatever. And then it was like the very next day, another producer, this guy from Orlando who had read it, emailed me. He's like, "I love it." He's like, "It's like absolutely great. It totally moved me." He's like, "I want to option it," and it is now optioned, and down there in Florida, and they're trying to get the money together. And I think it's Amy Smart has apparently signed on to play the mom, and it's
Oh
actually
wow,
getting some traction. So,
that's awesome.
so it's kind of like, well, who's right? Like one guy hated it, one guy loved it. Um, so no matter what you do, if you believe in the story, there's going to be someone that likes it. Like if you pitch a horror script to someone who doesn't like horror movies, they're going to hate it.
Right,
Um, but if you're kind of good at what you do and you're always getting better, you're going to find someone that will make your project. And it might take, I mean, I have stuff that it's a few years old, and just now it's starting to kind of get traction. I have other things that I write and then I sell it like the next day, some short scripts. It just kind of depends on finding the right person that sees something in it. Like some people could read it and just not, like they don't connect with your vision. And I always kind of wonder, like some scripts I just love. Like I think I could direct this myself; it'd be so good. And other people just they have no interest in it. And I'm always like, are they just imagining it being shitty? I don't quite get what their thought process is, or they just don't like the genre, or they didn't like the characters. Um, but if you keep at it, like it's like I actually been doing this for a living for a couple of years now, making money at it. It is possible. I mean, I'm still like working my way up the ladder, and I want to get to the point where I'm getting kind of Hollywood level paychecks and stuff. But even just to get to the part where you're getting paid to write stuff,
that's cool.
it's
Yeah,
so it's so cool. I mean, like it's kind of what I dreamed of when I was a kid, and now it's like,
right.
man, I get paid to write movies. It's like the
Yeah.
coolest thing that could possibly happen.
You definitely took the words right out of my mouth. I was like, you're living your dream.
Yes. Who would have thought?
No, no, that's cool. So, like, what's your kind of like process when you're writing? You sit down in X time period and you're like, oh, now I'm gonna write, or do you write off your gut?
It honestly, it kind of varies. Like I go through periods where I can just like crank stuff out, and I kind of just coming off of one. Like for last month or so, I was trying to just do a solid 20 pages a day, which is kind of insane. And I do that for a week or so, and then I just can't do it anymore. So then I just write 10 pages a day, which is still like a lot of work, but it seems easier than the 20 pages I was doing. So since we finished shooting Hotbox in that was like November. I think I've written like 3 features, several shorts, and like a TV episode or something. And I've optioned and sold a few of them. And um, but I can't do that for that long. Eventually, just the steam runs out, and I also get behind on other things. Like I got to be pitching and you know publicizing my other work and stuff. Catching up on deadlines for other projects. So now I'm kind of in the rewriting process because actually writing new stuff kind of takes more brain power than rewriting stuff I've already written. So I have
Okay.
a script called On the Hour that I optioned to a producer in Vancouver. And if it goes ahead and gets greenlit, which it's getting close, like it'll be the biggest budget movie I've ever had done. But they brought some other producers on board, and I have to do all these rewrites. So that's kind of what I'm doing, basically right up until I logged on here, is just going through the script and changing things according to their notes and
Yeah.
improving it and that. So I'll probably do that for another week or so, and we're shooting some more stuff on the next 2 weekends, and after that I'll dive back into it and just start writing a whole bunch of new projects.
Did I see correctly when I was scrolling through your page that you worked on a project in the United Kingdom?
Um, yeah, actually that one is fairly new. Last summer, I partnered with Lindsay Christopher, who is an actor here in Edmonton, and we produced a short horror film called "The Painting of Ebony Shaw." And it's still on YouTube if you want to watch it. It turned out quite well. I'm quite proud of it. And it was probably in the last month or so. I just kind of saw something circulating around Facebook, and that this producer in the UK is looking for horror shorts for an anthology. So I was like, all right. So I
Okay, so it looks like we lost Brandon briefly. Let's see. We'll just wait a couple of moments. Thanks everyone for your patience and for tuning in. Let's see if I can bring him back on the screen. Here we go. Hi,
hey, that was
Brandon.
weird. Anyways,
Yep.
so um, yeah, so I pitched this film to this producer, and it was chosen. They only picked like 6 short horror films worldwide, so it was quite an honor that
Oh
they
wow.
picked mine. Um, and yeah, it's actually going to be out on like video on demand and stuff. It's even going to be on DVD and Blu-ray, a limited release in the UK. This guy's from Ireland, so that's kind of exciting. He's actually a really cool guy named Stephen. Um, Crap, can't remember his last name now. But yeah, he's a really cool guy. And so I'm quite excited. It's going to get a bigger release than just being on uh, YouTube, right? It's kind of
Mm.
I don't know. I'm quite excited about it. Seems like people are excited, and um, maybe we'll even make a little bit of money at it.
So you seem to be a very creative person, but why not acting?
Uh, I've acted in a couple things before, short
Okay.
films when I was younger. I had one line in both of them, and I completely butchered both of them and kind of ruined the movie. So I was like, you know what? I'll leave the acting up to the professionals. Actually, I guess that's not entirely true. In Errand Boy, the feature-length action movie I made in 2000, or that I was part of in 2007, I my voice was in it. I was like, my voice is on like a voicemail, and that was actually pretty good. That was my best performance. But other than that, it's like there's so many good actors that I know it would just be ridiculous for me to even try to, um, you know, go up against them. So I'll just stay on the other side of the camera and write stuff, and leave that to the people who are great at it.
Oh wait, well we need everyone in the in the entertainment industry and creative they can do all different types of things, right? So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm good at what I'm good at. I like honestly, if I mean, I tend to put a lot of work into everything I do. If I really tried hard, I could probably become okay. But that time would be better spent doing what I'm already good at and getting even better at that. So I get no pleasure from seeing myself on video or anything, and it's just kind of, it's one of those things I just don't get. Right? It's just kind of like I wasn't blessed with that skill, and I'm totally happy with that.
Nice. So if we roll it back a few years, what was the first moment when you like started thinking that you'd like to be creative, that you like to write? Was it someone in your life, or was it just through your own self discovery?
Yeah, I've told this story before, and it's a great story. Um, yeah, I was probably like 10 years old. I was in grade four, however old you are in grade four. And I'd kind of written stories before, like ever since I could even write. I used to write like these kind of like 1 page or half a page Star Wars stories. Um, and but basically the moment it happened was, yeah, in grade four, I had this dream that I was kidnapped and I had to like escape from these kidnappers. And I woke up and like I had this whole story in my head. I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I remember I sat in class and I was like writing the story out. And I don't know if kids still do it, but you put your notebook up, like stand it upright and pretend you're working, but the teacher can't see what you're doing. So I was sitting there writing this story, and the teacher would like walk by, and I close my book and pretend I was working on whatever I was supposed to be doing. Um, and I got like halfway done the story, and to me it was just brilliant. And I went home, finished it that night, and I called it Nodnard Senior, which is Brandon Rhiness backwards. That was like the character of the
Oh,
story.
okay.
And the next day at school, I asked if I could read it to the class, which in hindsight was kind of weird because I was always a very, very shy kid. Like I never really spoke up in class or anything, but I was just so happy with this amazing story that I was like, I have to share it with people. So the English teacher let me go up there and read it. And I read the whole story to the class. It was like 3 or 4 pages. And when it was done, the class just like erupted in applause. And I was kind of like, whoa, I never expected that. And I remember I was like so popular the rest of the day. Everyone was just kind of mobbing me at recess and asking questions about it and telling me how great I am. And that was just like the moment where I was like, hey, maybe I'm onto something because people like what I write. I ended up writing a couple sequels to it, and yeah, that's kind of the moment it started. And I wish I had started earlier. Like it was always just kind of something I did for fun, and it wasn't until recent years where I was like, hey, I wonder if I can actually turn this into making money. And that's where I am now.
Cool. It's definitely never too late to start following your
Hell
dreams
no.
and your passions for sure. So if we're talking industry specific, do you have any one that you look up to that's inspired you or helped you like to get to where you are at the moment?
Uh, I wish I could say there was. There's this, like, I mean, there's people whose work I like and everything. It's just I see, honestly, I mean, it might sound strange, but I see this is like my thing, right? This is a solo thing. Like, I'm not aspiring to be anyone. I don't want to be anyone. It's like I just want to do what I want to do, make the exact kind of things that I want to make, and and basically, I like everything I do. It's my own ambition, all right? Like I don't look at anyone, and that's the next step I got to be. Maybe it's not a bad idea, but I don't know, that's not the way I think, right? I just see this as like if there was no filmmakers in the whole world, they all quit, and I was the only one, like whatever. I may or may not even notice. I would just keep doing what I'm doing,
Just
and
keep doing it.
I'm having a great time doing it. But I guess like partly answer like where I first decided to do film. Like up until then, I was writing short stories and other stuff, and I was into comics. But the moment I decided I wanted to make movies was in high school. I was like grade 11, maybe 12. And I remember I rented Reservoir Dogs and Leon the Professional. I rented them from the video store on the same day. Went home, watched them both, and I was blown away. And that was the moment where I was like, I told my parents, like, I want to make movies, and they were like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then I waited, way too long before I was like, hey, let's, do this for real. But that was the moment that inspired me. So, um, yeah.
Yes, man. Let's see.
Next question.
Got any questions for me? Let's spice it up. Let's mix it up.
I see people are commenting on this. That's kind of cool. Oh, thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, for sure. It's
um,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, from this perspective, it's interesting to see how from one episode to the next links you and connects you with different people. Because as you know, on the last episode was Griffin.
Oh yeah, Griffin's awesome.
Yeah, and so he was actually talking about you on one moment of the last episode, and I was like, then I like looked you up, and then like saw the types of things you do, and I was like, this looks like a really cool person to connect with.
Well, thank you very much. I like doing these videos. Like I mean, I like promoting the stuff I do, but I also just like inspiring people because I do like, there's some people, whether it's in this business or other businesses, but just hearing people that are excited about what they do, it just kind of gets me fired up too to be more excited about stuff. Um, and it's always like just from me talking about how I got to where I am and encouraging people. There's other people out there that message me and there's like, oh, you inspired me, and I just wrote my first short film, and I'm
That's
kind of like,
awesome.
hey, cool. Like who knows? In 20 years from now, they could be some big producer or writer or whatever, and it's kind of like they inspired me. And I remember there's actually a really cool podcast. It's called Selling Your Screenplay, and
Okay.
it's by a guy actually Scott Myers. And when I first started doing this, kind of like 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't even really know where to start. So I just Googled like, how do you sell a screenplay? And I found his podcast. I listened to every episode, and I started emailing him. We kind of became email buddies. And finally, I started selling things, and it eventually got to the point where he was like, you could come on my show. Um, and I remember in one of his early episodes, he said something along the lines of like a few years ago, I had never sold a script. I was just a normal guy starting out, and now I'm doing this for a living. And I was kind of like, you know what? If he could do it, I can do it. And then fast forward 3 years, and all of a sudden I'm on his show, and I was like, Ashley, like when you said that, that inspired me
Oh, that's
to
so
do
cool.
all of this, and then now I'm on your show, telling people the same thing, that they could do what I do.
That's
And just there was such a huge reaction to his episode. Like everyone was saying it was like his best episode in a long time and all this. And I actually got a writing gig. Some producer listened to that episode, messaged me. He's like, hey, I want to hire you to write a movie. I was like, sweet. And they just finished shooting that in California like last month or something. Um, so just even just getting out there and talking about stuff really, it benefits other people, and it benefits me too. Oh man, look at all these people saying nice things about me.
I know
Oh, thank you.
you're an amazing person. Look at all these people that's telling you.
That's so weird because I mean, even honestly, like 10 years ago, if like I could, just me and the people I knew could like look at it, like, it would be like, what are you talking about, right? It was just like it was a pipe dream, right? It was just like I could just never dream of like doing something that I love doing, and someone would pay me to do it, and just kind of like a movie project would bring together hundreds of people and get made. Like it just it's like winning the lottery, right? It just seems unattainable until you just start doing a little bit at a time, and all of a sudden everything it just starts to seem attainable, and all of a sudden the next step is like, well, if I can make this amount of money to script, it's not that big of a step to make this amount, and you know um, it's like if I sold a few, I could sell more. So it kind of just gives me the drive to keep going and keep trying. And sometimes it gets discouraging because sometimes you go a long time without selling a project,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden a whole bunch happens at once, and it's yeah, it's stressful sometimes, but it's always exhilarating, and just it feels so productive too to do what you want to do, because in this business it's so easy to procrastinate, and
Oh, I'm
I do
sure.
it too. A lot of writers do it. I mean, I know some other like screenwriters and or people who want to be screenwriters, and they're still working on the same script they've been talking about for 2 or 3 years, and it's like, yeah, it's just how are you going to make a career out of that? I just like I try to write fast. I make it as good as I can, as fast as I can, and just like I pitch the hell out of everything. And it's just so hard to get the traction on it, but it just kind of exhilarating that even when I'm sitting there writing, and I can tell it's good. Sometimes I'm writing and it's not that good, and I know I'll rewrite it, but sometimes I'm like, this is good. Like I can see me selling this. Um, and then I send out for people to read, and you know whenever I get a good response, like it touches people in some way. It makes me feel great.
So what's your kind you're talking a little bit about pitching. What's your kind of like pitch process? Do you write something and then put it out on your social media platforms, and then if you get like a good feel about it, then you send it off to like whoever. That's how.
Mostly what I do, like there's services, like Inktip and like screenwriting staffing. You can just pay so much a month, and basically they'll let you know of producers that are looking for things. I've sold a bunch of stuff that way. Um, just they'll say a producer is looking for a horror place or a horror movie that takes place mostly in one house, and I'll be like, hey, I got a script like that.
Yeah.
So I'll just send them the log line and a short pitch, tell them who I am. I'll put in my IMDb link, and I keep a database of everyone I've pitched to. So I do that a lot. That's where I get most of it. A lot of it is people that I've sold to before, and if they've had any success with their film, they'll be like, "Hey, can you write my next one?" And I'll be like, "Sure." Sometimes people will read one of my scripts and they'll like it, but they don't want to make that script, but they like my writing style, so they'll hire me to write their own idea. So I do a lot that way. And actually, for a while there, I think it was a couple summers ago, like for the whole summer, I just was on this kind of bender where every day I would pitch to 10 producers, like cold pitch.
Oh wow,
So
nice.
whatever script I have, like a horror or whatever, I would go to IMDb Pro. I would just look up movies in that genre, find out who the producers are, look up their email, and just send them a cold pitch. Hi, my name is Brandon Rhiness. This is my movie, and kind of like maybe 1 in 20 would even respond. And um, but one of the guys ended up. I don't think he hired me to write something, but he recommended me to someone else who hired me to write
Oh,
something, and I
that's
think that was like one of my highest paid gigs ever. So that kind of paid for itself. And a lot of I just made good connections, even just reaching out to people like that. A lot of the times they never buy any of my scripts, but they end up reading my comics and they end up buying a bunch of my comics. Um, so just kind of basically getting yourself out there. I know there's a lot of writers that worry about people reading their stuff, and it's like I will let anyone who wants to read my stuff read anything they want. Um, you kind of almost have to have that mentality if you're kind of guarded about your work. Um, it's so hard to get people to read your stuff, like producers, first of all, that if you go into it not wanting to show your work, like you're kind of working against yourself. Um, so I'm just going out there, like I'll let anyone read it, and sometimes they recommend it to people, and um, like just meeting one person leads to another person leads to another person, and that person will hire you to write a movie. That's kind of what happened with Core Values, um, which is directed by Gilbert Allen. I had a script called The Man in the Box, a horror movie, and I just threw it out on Facebook that I'm like, hey, I want to make this movie. Anyone want to partner with me? And I had a few people kind of respond, and I think it was Alice Creed who introduced me to Gil Allen. And Gil read it, and I guess he liked it, but he's just not really a horror guy. But he hired me to write his idea for Core Values,
Well, okay, nice.
and that ended up shooting in. You probably heard of that because they shot that in Red Deer last summer.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, and all that was is just me kind of, hey, I got a script and let some people read it, and then it turned into a whole movie getting made. And I've since gone on to write some more stuff for Gil. Um, so yeah, like I'm always pitching stuff, and I'm not like annoying. Like I don't want to spam people. You kind of got to be careful. Like people pitch me all the time too, and some of them do it correctly, some of them don't. Um, so you got to kind of be careful with that. And but I mean, there is a big demand. It may seem like it's hard to sell scripts, and it is, but there's always people looking for stuff. A lot of people, they want to be a director, they want to be a producer, and they hate writing or they can't write, and they just need a script, and it may as well be it could be yours. I've pitched scripts where they're doing like a kind of like an open call for scripts, and I remember I was talking with a development executive in LA, and they said they had over 2,000 script submissions for this like horror movie they were doing. One of them was mine, and I kind of kept following up with her, like, hey, any news? And she finally said, okay, we've narrowed it down to 100, and I was among that 100, which out of 2,000 some is pretty good.
That's good.
And they ended up, I never heard back from them, so they didn't take mine. But I mean, sometimes you're up against so many people, so it comes back to what I said earlier about just keep pushing it out there and find the person that it connects with. Like every one of my scripts is just kind of sitting there, and it may even be 10 years from now. Maybe I'll have another big movie, and then someone will, hey, that one comedy that no one else liked, I'll like that one. So yeah.
So we'll just dive back into the script writing a little bit. So when you're writing, do you write on paper and then type it up, or do you go straight to the computer? What's the deal?
When I actually write the scripts, I use Final Draft on my laptop. I do like when I'm brainstorming, I brainstorm better on paper. So actually, I got this really cool book. It's like this big, thick book, and I just sit there and just kind of brainstorm stuff. And I usually start breaking it down into kind of a rough outline until I get to the point where I have enough to write. Then I'll just sit down and just start pumping it out. And sometimes I'll get to a certain point, and the story will kind of like it'll go off the rails, and I kind of like lose the story. So I'll be like, okay, I'll just take a couple day break, go back, figure out the rest of the story, and then go back to it, which is kind of what I'm doing now with a new one that I was hired to write. Sometimes it all just comes out at once. I've had scripts that I've written in like kind of a week or two that I've just kind of plowed through, did like one or two revisions, sent out, and then someone pays me for it. Sometimes it all just comes together like that. Sometimes it's a struggle, and I got to write it over and over, and I'm always getting better too, right? Every script I write, I learn so much. So I'll always go back and even read a script from like a year or two ago, and I'll be like, oh man, that's like so not that good, So I'll go rewrite it, and every time I rewrite it, it gets so much better. Like I have a couple scripts I haven't touched in 2 years, and I'll probably read them, and it'll seem like amateur. So I'll go through and I'll just rewrite it, and it's like, wow, now it's really good. And that's happened with some too. Once I rewrite them, then I'll pitch it out again, and then someone will scoop it up. Because sometimes I just need to reach that like talent level where it's good enough to actually sell. But I mean, I'm always trying to get better. I always read other scripts, just to kind of see other styles, and I'll kind of take little things from here and there, just ways to phrase things, just kind of ways to stage certain things, and I'll just learn how to do it better and apply that to my script writing. And even today when I was rewriting, I was like, oh, I have a way better way to do this now. And so now when I send the new draft back to the producer, like I know he's going to be basically like blown away by how much better it was than the previous draft.
Is there an optimal length for a script, or should you write until it makes sense to stop?
Like usually they're kind of like 90 to 120 pages. Like genre movies are a bit less, dramas are kind of like more. I tend to write long. Most of my scripts, at the end of the first draft, a lot of them end up being like sometimes 150, 160 pages, because I don't like censoring myself as I write. So if it's two characters talking, I kind of just let them babble on for a long time. And then when I do a rewrite, I'll just start chopping it down, just taking out anything that's not as important or repetitive, and I'll eventually cut it down to a normal length. And when I do it that way, I find it's much better. Once you start like censoring yourself as you're writing and trying to like think about what's next, I find I just stall and I can't do it. So once I'm in kind of in the zone, as you call it, or whatever, I'll just keep writing as long as I can, because I know eventually I'll just go through and be like, okay, that could be cut, that could be cut, that could be cut, that scene could be cut, that line could be cut, that sentence could be shorter, and I'll go through over and over and over again. So everything that's left is just like the absolute like best of the best. And if you kind of do that enough time and get it down to like the optimum length, and it's kind of like you'll know when you see it. Like even my script, The Grey House, early drafts of that were like 110 pages, and I liked it, and I was getting good response, but I could just tell something was wrong. It's just like it's too like fat, you know. There's just too much there. So I kind of left it for like a year, and then I went back and oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff I could cut out, and now it's like 95 pages,
Oh, okay.
and it's so much better. It's just kind of like right when you get to the point, you know, like just get to like they call like the meat of the scene, and once you start doing that, like the writing quality gets so much better. And honestly, that's one thing I noticed like about a lot of like people when they're writing their first scripts is that they quite haven't learned how to like how to get in and out of a scene, and it's like every scene is just way too long. And I was like, the scene is like 2 pages. It should really be like quarter of a page, maybe half a page. Um, and once you kind of learn that, um, your writing will get better. I think it was right around the time I got hired to write my first feature. I had a bunch of scripts or a couple that I'd written, but I had that problem. They were just too long. And I remember listening to the audiobook for Stephen King's book on writing, where he just talks about his career. And one of the things he said was like, as you do new drafts, they should be shorter, like cut out the bad stuff. And I was like, oh, so I went and did that, cut out a whole bunch of stuff, and it was like a light bulb went off. I was like, oh, when it's tight like this, it's so much better. So I rewrote the script Bad Cop that I had. I rewrote it using that method, sent it out to a couple producers, and instantly, like, one hired me to write a movie. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's
Nice.
just little things like that it just takes kind of basically a lot of practice, a lot of reading stuff um, to learn how to do it. And there's a lot of times too, I'll read scripts. Like I don't know if people there watched Hereditary, the horror movie. I quite liked it. I actually read the script for it, and it was kind of shockingly similar to how I write. And it was a huge movie, so it kind of gave me some inspiration. I was like, yeah, like this guy's style is so close to me. Like he even uses the same words and the same kind of like way of phrasing things. And I was like, wow, that's so kind of cool. And then sometimes I'll read other scripts, and it's almost like it's so far beyond me. I'm just like, oh my god, there's no way I could ever write like this. Um, and just like, okay, maybe I'll never be at that level, but I'm good at writing what I'm good at writing, and the stories I want to tell. It's like no one except me could tell that story. And if you want to be a writer, if you have a story in you, no one else could tell your story other than you. So as long as you just are always aiming to get better, like you could reach a level where someone will make your movie, and eventually people will pay you money to make your movie. I know a lot of people want to be a writer, and it's discouraging because it is insanely hard. Like just like if I showed you my database of people I've pitched to, like you'd be like, how could you continue, right? Like I've pitched to
Yeah.
thousands of people, and then it's like, well, I've had like 3 features made. It's nonstop rejection, right? Like even honestly, since we started doing this interview, I just got an email like pass on a script that I pitched. It's just constant, right? Like you pitch it to everyone, and everyone says no, and you got to just keep going until you find the person that says yes. And that if you keep working at it, that will eventually happen.
Yeah. So how do you like cope with the rejection aspect and the no's?
It's honestly, it's just something you got to deal with, right? It's like it's it's impossible not to have that. Like the odds of you writing a script, pitching it to one person, and that one person buying it, it's like that. It just never happens. Like,
Yeah.
um, it's hard to have a perfect career. Like, and especially in movies or any sort of creative thing, it's such like a subjective thing. Like people have different tastes, right? Like even within horror, there's different types of horror, and if you have a slasher movie but people don't like slashers, they're going to hate it. Like who knows? Like there's a million things that people could not like about something, um, and it's it's kind of like it's easier. I mean, it's a big risk when people pick a script. They got to put a lot of effort and a lot of money into it. They always say it's easier to say no. They could read something, and if there's anything that it's a bit higher budget than we want, it's just easier to be, we pass on it. Um, so so when it comes down to like, yeah, basically you just have to deal with it. And so I mean, sometimes I kind of, I lose my steam and I kind of get down on myself too. It's like, oh my god, this is so hard. Like, why am I doing this? And it's just something you learn to live with, and you just I keep writing, and then things will turn around, and all of a sudden, I'll get some big opportunity, and it's like, oh, that kind of changes it back. Now I'm going up again instead of going down, and um, it's just like once you made the commitment to it, it's like there's no backing down. It's like I've gone too far. I can't go out and become a lawyer now. It's just like I'm onto something, and
It's great.
it's like I'm not at the level I want to be yet. I'm still working my way up, but it's like I'm definitely onto something. Like people, it's like I'm getting stuff made, which is like getting a movie made is an incredible feat. Having it done multiple times it's really really hard. Um, so I'm glad like I have an amazing team of people that I'm working with and I surround myself with, like some of them, writers, actors, and all that, and it's just kind of like, hey, we now have this momentum where we're working on stuff and everyone's so great, and people are like their talents are coming forward, and we're kind of, we got this core team of people that it's like, hey, we're starting to produce stuff all the time now, and I really want to push that more, and basically what it comes down to is I want to make us all rich. Like I want to make a ton of money doing this so we can all do this full time, and not have to work jobs and not have to struggle, and basically just I want everyone to live the dream.
Now, do you ever attend any like workshops to keep working on your craft, or is it all self-driven?
It's all
All
self-driven.
self-driven?
Yeah, um, it might be useful for me. Like I research a lot. Like I'm always learning and stuff, and kind of like I'll watch videos and do the master class things, and just to learn more. But as far as taking classes, like I think I've learned all I could, like sitting at a desk learning stuff. Um, where I'm going to learn more is just doing it, directing more projects, writing more scripts, just actively trying to get better on each one. That's really going to get me far. Like I took radio and television at NAIT. That was kind
Okay.
of my schooling. They didn't have the digital art program when I went, so I took the closest thing they had to film, and we got to make a short film in the class. I was like a grip, and yeah, wasn't that great of an experience. But everything I've learned is all self-taught. I think I took a creative writing course when I was a teenager, but I didn't really learn much from it. I'm honestly not a very good student. I don't like paying attention to things that I don't want to, and I don't like being given deadlines that I don't want to have and all that. So I'm best just learning what I'm doing. And honestly, my method of just kind of learning as I go is kind of great because I got a whole bunch of short films that I've turned out as I'm learning, and so I got stuff to watch, and it just shows people that hey, I can get stuff done, and people kind of want to join the team, and it gives actors the attention they want, and gives everyone practice, and it kind of helps me solidify the team I like working with, and yeah, so I'm just gonna keep going.
Nice. So what do you kind of do when you just want to step away from the writing and the headaches and the successes and have
Uh,
that mental break?
yeah, there's not really a mental break.
Okay.
It's like you can't turn it off. Like it's a good thing, having like a day job is labor intensive, but you can come home at the end of the day and work's over. There's no getting away from your brain. It's like it's going non-stop, and um, it's honestly like it's kind of weird. Like sometimes like this with the brain going, like I would say it would like drive you crazy, but it's like it is like the amount of projects I do, and I got to be running those stories in my head, and I'm thinking of new things, and just figuring out how stories work and how I'm going to do this, thinking of dialogue, and there's no way to turn it off. So I actively have to try to if I'm doing something else to keep my mind on what I'm doing and not be thinking movie stuff in my head. But it's so hard to turn off, and that's why I have to write like so much. Like I mean, the screenwriters that write one movie a year, every 2 years, it's almost like there's like a well in my head that's kind of like filling up, and if I didn't write it, it would just like overflow. So I have to just write stuff like constantly just to kind of keep my sanity, and basically just keep that process going. And and it's like I don't know if it's like a skill or a talent or whatever, but just the ability, like I've had times where like I've had like an idea for like a script, it'll just come to me for like a short story. I'll like write it down. I'll be like, okay, I'll just kind of jot some notes down. Next day I'll sit down and write it. I'll usually write like a short film in one day. Next day I rewrite it. And there's some that it's like within the week I've sold it, made rent money just from selling the script. Like it happens so fast. And if you have that ability, like why would you try to, suppress it? It's just like something comes to me, I write it down, and if I'm sitting on the bus or walking around or doing whatever, like I'm just constantly like looping stories in my head and just running scenes of how to do the dialogue better and imagining different endings for the story. And then when I get home, I have this like wealth of information in my head that just pours out onto the page. Um, and it's like I can't turn it off, and I think I would be foolish to. Um, yeah, I can't see that. I'll probably, the day I die will be the day I stop thinking about it. Um, and sometimes it's hard because you're trying to pay attention, and as soon as my mind wanders, I'll just I'll start thinking about a script, and I'll just think of like a better way to like do a scene, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's such a good way, and then the characters will talk in my head, and I'll come up with all this cool dialogue, and then I just got to remember till I get home, and I'll remember at least a part of it, and I'll write it down, um, and yeah, like that's where my creativity comes from, and it's like yeah, I'll nurture that, and kind of like I my main focus is just kind of protecting my I don't say protecting my mind is not the best way to put it, but if I got too much pressure on me or there's this kind of drama going on or anything that distracts me, it's like it's a big deal because all of a sudden I can't focus on what I need to focus at. And the best thing for me is to not have anything going on in my head that is not um, the movie stuff, because that's how I'm able just to like write so much and to do so many things and to do so many projects. And I have to do a lot just to make a living. So I love that. I love being able to just constantly, if my brain's going, it's like I'm coming up with cool shit, and I just love it.
Nice, man. Do you have any questions for me? What are you curious about?
Are you in the industry? Like what are you interested in?
Okay, so my background is like originally was in theater and entertainment production. So as a theater technician. So I started acting first off, and I appeared in a bunch of stuff like Sound of Music, Oliver Twist, back when I lived in England. And then transitioned into technical theater, stage management, lighting, all that sort of stuff. Done a few projects up in Edmonton, a couple of Edmonton fringes, Edmonton like Feats Dance Festival. So I've done a lot of like cool like projects up in Edmonton, and then I got to the point where it was like I really enjoyed this, but I wasn't enjoying it at the same time because I was working like kind of like long like physical hours like AV corporate audio visual at the hotel, and I wasn't enjoying it, and so then I took a break from it, just got some like steady work to keep the income going, and then just perusing around for basically what I wanted to do next, and then I came across the media and communications program at Red Deer College, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. It's a brand new program, so I took it, and I still kind of didn't know what I wanted to do, and then it wasn't until the second year of the program, so like back in February, when we had like this guest speaker and he was talking about social media and marketing and networking and community. And it was just like I went into the presentation thinking it's just going to be another like boring guest speaker, and then I left. I left the room, and I felt strange inside. I was just like a like different person. It was like a really like weird sensation, and then I started doing some like research. He recommended someone to listen to, so I started listening to this particular person online, and just kind of got me like inspired, motivated, a little bit of a different like, just like a different person altogether, and then it just kept going and going, and then came up with this concept of Tea with Mike, a bit like some of your screenwriting, just like out and all the writing that you do, just like out of the blue, and then I was like, oh, let's start, let's see what happens, and here I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I always admire people that just kind of like follow their dream. I can't even see how someone could live if they always wanted to be this one thing, but they don't believe in themselves, so they get a job. And it's like how can you live like that? I always like it when people just like I have this idea and they do it. I mean, there's probably like a million people out there that want to do a podcast and they've been thinking about it, and most of them probably never will. They
Because they
just
don't
don't have the
stop.
ambition to follow through. It's
They
like
don't
you
stop.
just got to start and build it up, and it's like you can't wait until you have a massive budget and the biggest guests. It's like just start doing one and do another one, and then it'll pick up, and you'll be amazed at how far you could come in a short time. Um, and it just it takes just like a lot of it takes passion. So yeah, I just like hearing stories like that of someone that just one day a light turned on and they were excited about one aspect of whatever it is, sports or theater or whatever, and just like started following that. And it's like that's the kind of people I like surrounding myself with. um, just like a bunch of like-minded people like that, you could go very far. Like screenwriting is like a solitary thing, and it's I don't know if it would get boring, but like I couldn't imagine only doing that. I like having the filmmaking aspect too, where you're actually out doing stuff with people. Um, that kind of just keeps it fun. Like I don't want to be a hermit, like sitting in my house all day long, writing stuff for the next 50 years. I want to be like I'll do that too, but I'll also like get out and do stuff and make stuff with people. Kind of like sometimes I'll write something and I'll sell it to whatever some other filmmaker. They'll go off and make it on their own. I really have nothing to do with it. And there's some where it's like, yeah, this one's mine. Like I'm really excited about this project. I want to do it myself. This one I'm doing myself. So it's kind of like a one for you, one for me kind of thing. Even when I'm writing, there's some that it's like I love the script, but I don't really have any interest in directing it myself. So I'll just sell it to someone else. Some of them, as I'm writing it, I'm like, no one else is touching this. Like this one's mine. Um, yeah, kind of like Grotesque that we're doing, shooting a trailer for it next weekend, and we're shooting the feature in June. That's what I just like. People seem to love the script, and it's just like, oh, I don't. I got a really, really good feeling about it. I think it's going to be awesome. Elizabeth Chamberlain is playing Mildred, the main psychotic killer character,
Oh,
and she's amazing, and it's going to be great. Julie Whalen is my co-producer on it. Um, and Christian Richmond is going to be the DP. We have an awesome cast. We have a great crew. It's going to be a lot of fun. People have described it as kind of Deadpool combined with American Psycho,
oh wow, okay.
which yeah, it seems about right. Maybe with a Brandon Rhiness spin on it, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be the first time using kind of gore effects. We have Olivia Morley, who's a really awesome like kind of makeup effects person, and yeah, we're going to have lots of disturbing violence and funny stuff, and it's kind of over the top, and it's going to be great.
That's that's really cool. That seems like a really good space to to kind of like wrap things up. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you so much for your time today. You shared like a wealth of knowledge, your passion, like the challenges that you've overcome, and it's really super inspiring.
Well, thanks for having me on, and thanks for everyone for watching, and everyone that was saying nice things about me and complimenting my scripts. That means the world to me. Thank you so much, and I'll be seeing. I guess a lot of these people I'll be seeing on the weekend because we're shooting a short film called The Hive. So thanks everyone for watching, and I hope talk to you soon.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I'll definitely be paying attention and tuning into some of the projects that you're working on because they do look really fascinating.
No, thank you.
Yeah, okay, so guys, this was Tea with Mike, episode number 10. This was Brandon. He was amazing. Have a good night. Bye.